speaking on the topic of what is devotee care, and also bringing a little bit introduction to the challenges of applying this universal principle of care to our communities. It's just because we have too much diversity. And I give an example of nursery dates. I'm not intending to serve it, but he was talking about it. You just can't take it and plant it somewhere else. So when it comes to, there's a caring professionals, the professional services also offered. But to bring the concept of care within our communities, it brings about an interesting challenge, just because we have too much diversity. Let's take a look at it. I hope it works. I want all of you to just quickly take a look at this picture. I'm just going to show you another picture and let's see what differences you can note here. So this is one picture of a devotee community from India. Okay. And this is another picture. That looks like 26 Second Avenue, New York. Do you see any difference or any similarity? How do you look at these two pictures? If you wish, I'll go back again. We have one picture here of one community. It's all devotees, huh? And we have another picture of another community here. Any quick thoughts? Anyone can just go ahead.
The front.
Yes, let's
In the first picture, all the Prabhus were at the front. In this picture, all the Matajis are at the front.
Woman and man don't go. Okay, what else? Anything else?
In this picture, the H.
You can't really look.
The H.
The H.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Age.
Oh, the
I can
age.
see here elderly people.
Oh, okay, the
While
age.
here,
Oh, you're saying the most senior, the young devotees here. Okay, what else? Yes, Prabhu.
In this picture, there is mostly white, but there is different color devotees. And the next picture is only Indian devotees.
Okay. And if you yes, let's take 1 minute first.
The other picture, you see most of Matajis, but they are more like happy, actually.
Okay, anyways, I hope you're just getting this point of diversity. Just as you said, you can't pick a system for one place and use it another place within our community, because we come from different cultural backgrounds. We have to always have a consideration for that. Let's take a look at another picture. This is something more of Western outreach. Okay? And we can say this one probably. This is somewhere. Do you remember what these two pictures are giving a difference? So, for the West, Prabhupada said go out on street Sankirtan. For let's say if you talk about Bharat, or let's say for that part, do more kirtans inside the temples. I don't remember going out for 8 hours every day for Sankirtan back in India. But generally in the West, devotees would go out. When it comes to outreach, let's take a look at it. How does generally outreach happens in the West? Devotees going out on book distribution. If you can make the comparison with Bharat, then generally this is the focus. A lot of people come to temple and a lot of program happens for them. A lot of people become devotees back in Bharat by temple programs, where elsewhere devotees or people may become devotees through book distribution. So the point is, these are diversities we got to always keep in mind, and when we have these diversities, how do we establish caring communities? To establish caring communities in this broad ISKCON society, we got to have certain principles which are universally accepted. And for those principles, principles is like more of a knowledge. It defines what should be the framework. Whereas values, they are like the qualities with which the principles need to be followed. So to begin with, let me ask a quick question. Can you think of one principle which defines the life of every Vaishnava in Chaitanya's movement, which is universally applicable? One thing. I'm going to speak about 6 principles, but let's do a little brainstorming. One thing which is universally applicable to all of us, regardless of our diversity.
Kindness.
Kindness, that's more value.
Yes.
That's more value. Chanting the holy names of the Lord. Okay. So, principle would be remembering the Lord. And that becomes the details, chanting the holy names of the Lord. What about we can say, the teachings, Srila Prabhupada teachings and lessons, which means whatever has been taught to us by our acharyas and their examples is universally accepted to all of us, for whichever part of the world we are. So when we talk about it as a principle, then what would be an equivalent value for it, by which we can apply this principle? What should be the value? Value refers to quality. I get the point? Value refers to quality and principle. So there are 6 principles which have been identified and shortlisted by the group of leaders who were working on this course almost 15-20 years ago. And for each principle, they highlighted a particular value. However, each principle can have multiple values, but just to give a clarity on it. So what value would you tie to the principle of, let's say, following Srila Prabhupada teachings and examples? What could be the value? The quality? Yes, Mother.
No, I'm holding a piece of glass, not clearing the between.
Okay, Tanada piece, Nichena, therapy. So humility, which means humility is to accept, follow the orders. Thank you. So humility, precisely. Thank you, Mother. Yes, please.
Honesty.
Honesty, absolutely. Integrity.
Honesty.
Integrity, honesty is just to follow, not to make changes. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Anything else? Yes.
Compassion.
Compassion. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Yes.
But you said purity is the force.
Purity is the force. Okay. Cultivating purity. Okay. So like this, the principles and values have been identified. I'll just introduce that over here and then we'll have a quick short discussion on that. So underlying universal truth that is required for successful application, whereas value refers to the quality or the virtues which could be personal as well as organizational, which is needed to follow the principle. Then we can apply the principle properly. So what are the 6 principles and values? These are the 6 shortlisted principles and values. We'll take a look at each one of them. Thanks. Jai Shri Krishna Balaram ki Jai, Shri Prabhu Madhav ki Jai, Shri Bhagavad ki Jai. So we'll be providing this soft copy. You can always have this book. So in that there are some quotations are given. Anyways, to begin with, Srila Prabhupada's teachings and example. The foundation of ISKCON, or in other words, whatever we do has to be based on some Shastra, some knowledge. And where do we get it from? Who do we adhere to? The foundation of all that is Srila Prabhupada's teachings. Now, not that only Srila Prabhupada teachings, it is also Acharya's teachings. And teachings are not enough in itself if you don't have example. Just like Srila Prabhupada before going to the West, when he was in Bombay, living in the housing complex of that shipping company, who arranged Prabhupada's ticket to go to the West. So this is a story in Prabhupada Lilamrita. So one man who was in the neighborhood, he came and spoke to Swamiji in those days. Prabhupada was called as Swamiji. He said, Swamiji, you're so old. Why are you going to America? This is not the age to go and see the world. Prabhupada said, well, I'm not going to America to see. I want to carry this Bhagavatams over there. So the man said, well, why do you need to travel? You can ship the books. Then Prabhupada said, well, if I ship the books, yes, books will reach. But how would they understand the book if they don't have a person Bhagavatam to see who is living that book in practice? So Srila Prabhupada's teachings and example is the foremost principle and the foundation of our devotional life. That's about Srila Prabhupada's teachings and example. There's a beautiful quote. Actually, this is an anecdote which His Honour Giriraj Maharaj quotes of his reflection of Srila Prabhupada. And he says, speaking in Los Angeles about the qualities of a devotee, Srila Prabhupada said, sympathetic. We should be very much sympathetic. If any of our fellow men fall sick, we must take care of them. give them help. Because after all, we have got this material body. Sometimes you may fall sick. So we should be sympathetic. This is known as Samal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, in the diary which he wrote about the final moments of Srila Prabhupada, particularly the last month. He makes a point that how it is hardly a few days before Prabhupada concluded his pastime. Somewhere close to midnight, Prabhupada called for the temple manager and the kitchen in charge. And the first question Prabhupada had that was the midnight when everyone was sleeping. Prabhupada wanted to ask, are devotees properly fed? Question to the manager and question to the kitchen in charge, are you cooking nicely? And then His Holiness Samal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, we were so shocked. In the middle of the night, Prabhupada hadn't eaten himself for the last 3 weeks. Even in such a condition, he's thinking about devotees. So here, a very important point, or maybe before I make a point, because our subject matter is a little bit focused on creating a caring community, so let's keep the focus over there. I just want you to quickly think about any community which you relate to be a caring community. You don't have to name it. Think about a community which, when you think of it, the caring concept is very much visible in that community. That you know of, that that community is known for caring. Do we have some name? How many of you can think of some? Okay, we have one. Any other? That can be anywhere part of the world. Any ISKCON center, temple, any community which you think really highlights for you. It really highlights the concept of care. Who have got some names? You don't have to name, just I want to see how many you can think of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my question to all 5 of you. When you talk about the community, whom would you give the credit for creating the kind of an environment and ethos of caring for each other? Does it go to the devotees or does it go to the leadership? Leadership? That's the point. So leaders create the ethos. Ethos refers to the environment. When we begin to talk about it, why am I making this point? I believe there was a question from the mother with Lieutenant who was sitting, and she was making a point. What do we do? Somebody have done something in the past, and we have those hurt feelings. And the nature of a human being, or the human nature is what we receive, we give. If we have been mistreated, often we pass on that mistreatment to others. Now, even after coming back after all those years, if in case we again get mistreated, those kind of feelings goes around. So, we have had certain history, whatever the case. But leadership and ISKCON have recognized that. And they really want to work on it. Therefore, now they're working on courses like Devotee Care. There's a leadership development course, leadership and management course, and whatnot. Because, I believe I was making a point another forum. Yes, Bhagavatam says, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarve gunisatra samasate sura hara uktasya kuto mahapruna mano rathina siddhavato bhai. Yes, Bhagavatam says, when you render devotional service, when you serve the Lord, you develop all the good qualities. True, but we also need to endeavor to cultivate certain skill set. And therefore, now leadership has been focusing on training over devotees, training over leaders, for cultivating those skill set. And so, this all subject matter begins largely from the leader. Whatever he says, yat yat achati shrishtas tat tat evataro jana. If the leadership has a focus, then devotees down the line also have a focus. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada's teaching example is a foremost leader for us. He's an acharya, so whatever Prabhupada does, Prabhupada speaks, is what generally devotee would follow that reason. So that's the first universal principle here. The corresponding value for it has been identified as wisdom and realization. Of course, for each of this principle, you can have multiple value, but just for the ease of our discussion. Oftentimes it is said, Prabhupada said this, Prabhupada said that, Prabhupada said this, many times it is quoted. But to be really able to understand and to apply. As we were talking about diversity, now, principle is universal, but details vary according to time, place, circumstances. How to apply that principle in a given situation is a subject matter of the time, place, and circumstance. Just like the example of that African devotee, he saw the whole idea of morning program attendance. He took it and he just implemented it. It didn't work out. So that's what calls wisdom and realization, which means a little maturity of how to use the system and apply it. And that's how the value has been mapped to it. So my question over here is, so we got the Srila Prabhupada's teaching example, that's the principle. To be able to really follow this principle, we need wisdom and realization. Can you think of something by which we can cultivate this wisdom and realization? I don't want to offer theory, I want to offer solution also. What one thing in the devotee community we should be doing through which we can cultivate wisdom and realization? Let's give a Srila Prabhupada. Let's give a system for each of these. Yes, Madan.
We should hear about the life of Prabhupada and
Okay, read Prabhupada Lilamrita.
his life.
Like Prabhupada. Thank you. Thank you, Madan. Anything else? Yes.
Prabhupada's book.
Read Prabhupada books. Go further. You're getting close
Prabhupada's
to it.
teaching.
Huh?
Prabhupada's teaching.
Yeah, Prabhupada books are Prabhupada teachings. Yes, Madan.
His disciples' testimonies who give.
Yeah, I guess we all are focusing on example. So example is what? Prabhupada Lilamrita, Prabhupada memories. Let's come to teachings. Wisdom and realization. What about teaching? What is there that we can do so we can understand teaching so that we cultivate wisdom and realization? So, Srila Prabhupada, yes.
Follow the instruction.
Follow the instructions. Thank you. Prabhupada himself instituted systematic study of his books. It's imperative. It's unavoidable. Therefore, Prabhupada said, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma. So that we have a systematic study. And there cannot be any better example for me to put in this context than His Holiness Jayapada Swami Maharaj. In this situation, he has gone through Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta degrees. Why? And he often, lately he has been speaking, everyone should do this training program. Because Shastra is understood not by reading, by hearing. And that's what makes a systematic study. And when we do the systematic study, then we cultivate this value. So Shravanam, Kirtana, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam. So first is Shravanam. And when we sign up for this kind of programs, that creates an opportunity for us to understand Srila Prabhupada's teachings. Is that okay? So principle, how to apply. Now this application is also possible for everyone, wherever they are, because we have this kind of Shastra courses. Let's go to the next principle. Vaishnava Seva. So, let me ask a quick question. Why have you joined ISKCON? Of course, the answer is there on the board. So, Seva. Serve whom? No, I know the answer is on the board. Again, you might get it. But serve whom? So, serve Krishna. Now, Mahabharata says, Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gatha sapanta. Dharmasya tattvam. Tattva means essence of Vedic knowledge. Nihitam guhayam. Guha refers to cave. The essence of scriptural knowledge of all the Shastras is kept as a secret in the core of the heart of a Mahajano Yena Gatha Sapanta. Only a Mahajan can tell us what is the essence of it. Now we have 12 Mahajans, as Yamaraji says, Swambhu, Narada, Shambhu, Kumara, Kapilo, Eladu, Janaka, Vishnu, Valid Vayasakir Vayam. Does anyone know what any of this Mahajan says about whom do we need to serve? Yeah, correct. Devotees, but any quick reference that comes to your mind for that? Lord Shiva, he's speaking to Parvati. Aradhananam Sarvesham. Vishnu Aradhanam Param. In all kind of worship and service, the greatest is of Vishnu. Tasma, however, the greatest is not of Vishnu, is of the devotees. So Mahajana is saying, the greatest is of the devotees. And that pleases the Lord more than service to the Lord himself. Prahlad Maharaj, another Mahajan. Naisham Patistavat Urukramagrim Spashati Anarthapagamo Yadarthaha Mahiyasami Padarajo Bhishekam Niskinchana Varnitayavat. He's saying, Prahlad Maharaj says, unless you take shelter of the pure devotee of the Lord, Mahiyasam, Yatpada Rajobhishekam, unless one covers his body with the dust of the lotus feet of a great devotee who is Niskinchanana, you cannot get purified. And unless you get purified, you cannot have any realization of the Lord. So if you look at the Shastras, if you look at the Mahajanas, they all talk about Vaishnava Seva. This is what we need to, this is universal principle again. So what is the value we need to cultivate for this? Is expertise. I believe yesterday, I see with some new faces here, I was told some devotees from Amsterdam is coming. So yesterday we had a first session, we were talking about, what was that? Dadati Pratigranati? What was on that matters of expertise? I just skipped. Anyways, so expertise. Yeah, so NOI, I was making a point. Just skipped. I was speaking of the fifth verse, Krishneti Yasya Kiritam Manasadriyeta. And the point that I was making is, what was the English statement I made? To serve everyone is to serve. How did I start? I just skipped my head. Anyways, the idea is that verse says, if you really want to serve everyone, if you want to really please everyone, it's not to serve equally, but serve differently, as the fifth verse of NOI says. So to do that, we need expertise, one of the qualities. So my question here is, how do we develop expertise when it comes to Vaishnava Seva? Any good thoughts? We got different gradations of devotees. So how do we develop expertise when it comes to Vaishnava Seva? Any system or structure that exists in ISKCON that offers that can help us build this expertise? Yes?
Visiting the Devotee care seminar, for example.
Oh yeah, that's care. See what's up there. Okay, thank you, Sam. Yes, Prabhu?
Learning from the Shikshas.
Learning?
Learning from other devotees.
Okay, learning from other devotees. Thank you, good valid point.
Bhakti Vriksha program.
Bhakti Vriksha. There are 5 Shiksha models, so that cover that. Okay. What else? So this Vaishnava Seva is part of the Shiksha model. And when you talk about Vaishnava Seva, expertise, which means it requires certain skills. Imagine, a guest comes to your community, your home, and he's hungry, and you want to serve. I remember back in those days in Columbus, every Saturday morning I used to cook for Radha Akbar. His case, Mahatma Prabhu, America. So he was visiting our community. Bad luck for him, he came on Saturday morning. I offered bhoga to the Lord, and then one devotee went to serve him the prasadam. I was in the kitchen, just like many places, very handful of devotees to serve. So after cooking, after offering, I was cleaning the kitchen, and then a devotee came running. Mahatma Prabhu was calling for you. And I go, what happened? Okay, I'll go. I went there. The Mahatma Prabhu said, who has cooked this prasadam? I said, Prabhuji, oh, by tasting this prasadam, I can imagine you must be a very austere brahmachari. I didn't know what he meant by this. I don't know if that a compliment or that was a sarcastic comment. I said, for a second I was happy. I said, okay, good, austere brahmachari. And then he said, why don't you sit and have prasadam with me? I said, okay. I got paid by plate and sat down. And I had my first spoon of prasadam. And lo and behold, there was no salt. I forgot to put the salt on me. And then Prabhu said, so, austere brahmachari, how do you like prasadam? I said, that's really austere. So what I'm trying to make here is, anything that we need to do, even just like offering, cooking, it all requires skill. So, continuous professional development, what we call a CPD. We should also focus on skill development. Somebody has to be a trainer, so he needs to go through, let's say, TTC, Teachers Training Course, whatever. You want to be Kirtaniya, you come to learn how to play Mridanga. You just can't say, the moment I heard Mridanga, Lord within my heart is Paramatma, will inspire me. And my hands will begin to beat, and everyone will dance. I remember many times when you have to give a class or something. I remember one day we had a Bhagavatam class, and I was driving him. We were running late to a temple. And he was sitting behind, and this was many, many years, 15, 20 years ago. And he took out a pen and paper. While sitting on a bike, he began to make notes. And I go, what are you doing? These are Indian roads. Either you would fly away or the daddy will fly away. Why don't you sit tight hold? He said, no, I have a Bhagavatam class. I know you have a Bhagavatam class. Why have you taken on the daddy? Well, now I'm reading the shloka and preparing for the class. I said, this is not the time to prepare for the class. You should prepare it. So I asked him, why did you do last minute preparation? He said, I have this faith. Krishna will inspire me the moment I sit on the asasana. And then I will automatically begin to speak. So anyways, so Vaishnava Seva, as we discussed philosophically, we are here.
Oh no, I was just, maybe I don't know I'm right now, but to know what you want to serve Vaishnava, what is his favorite dish, or what he likes, how can you please that Vaishnava?
Ask a Vaishnava.
No, that is what I
She's
do.
contributing to
Yes.
expertise means to know.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Correct. So that's the part about this Vaishnava Seva. I'll take questions once I finish with this, because considering my time, I'll come back to it. Third is principle, loving relationship. Well, it's about serving Vaishnavas. Loving relationship is important. Again, yesterday we spoke about it. The NOI, the 5 essential verses from the text number 4 to text number 8 are not Rupa Goswami's composition. They were spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, always remember, the essence of all instruction is, always remember Krishna. Stay in Holy Dham and serve under the guidance of senior Vaishnavas. And therefore, before he spoke of the text 7, to chant the holy names of the Lord, 3 verses prior to that were all about building loving relationship with the devotees. So for that, Dadati Pratiganati Guhyamakyati Prachati, we spoke of an acronym, CARE acronym. I don't know if that's possible to recall. Does anyone remember what was that CARE acronym? In relation to NOI text 4, C. Charity. A. Accepting. C. Charity, giving gifts. A. Accepting, receiving gifts. R. Revealing one's mind. Thank you. So we have some friendships and relationship. In that context, I spoke to you about triangle of life. Self-development, loving relationship, and social contribution. And then what happens? The E, when we have the first 3 things.
Ecstatically.
And then we dance ecstatically. We don't dance, we walk ecstatically. So like that, the loving relationship. So what is the value needed for that? Affection and love. The sense, and this is all subset of care. We generally, so we got philosophical understanding, what we are, we have Prabhupada examples, we have Prabhupada teachings, we have got philosophical understanding, this is what we are here to do, to serve. Serving Vaishnavas pleases the Lord, and then how to serve them? With affection and love. Moving forward to the fourth quality is, principle is attentive listening. I guess I gave the example yesterday. One person just got attracted to ISKCON just because a devotee heard him patiently and quietly. I remember one of our devotees in Pune had gone to a doctor. He's a very famous doctor, Dr. Patankar. Even I have been there. I never went back to him. He's an Ayurvedic doctor. In his clinic, he has an interesting setup. The patient will be sitting on his right hand side, and the other patients who are waiting, he will be sitting right in front of him. There is no privacy. And this guy will get hold of your the head, the wrist, and he'll start speaking everything. What you ate last time and all that. So anyways, so this particular devotee went to him. The doctor did not open his mouth, and he did not allow this guy to speak. What he's doing is holding his hand, and he's speaking to all the new patients who are there. Okay, where are you from? This and that. He's talking to his secretary. And he just kept holding his hand. And afterwards, for a few minutes, once he was done, he took a pen and paper and scribbled something on the paper. This patient was not allowed even to open his mouth. The doctor did not even look at him. He scribbled something on the paper, gave it to the assistant, and he told to the patient, all right, you're done. Now, what will you do if you get this kind of a treatment? Now, he's a very famous doctor, Dr. Patankar. This devotee came out. He was so angry, so wild. He said, this rascal, he took so much of my time. First, we waited for so long. He had time to talk to others. I am the patient who needed attention. He did not even ask me once, what is my problem? Without even asking me, he gave me a prescription. Who's gonna? So, attentive listening. Attentive listening happens later on. Just to be able to listen. It's a quality which tomorrow Ramata will be speaking about the skill of how to cultivate the standard of listening. Any Shastra example you can think of where this thing has happened? Attentive listening. Our whole Shastra is of that. Parashita Sukadeva Goswami, isn't it? And Sukadeva Goswami time and again kind of, he would check how attentive Parashita is. And Parashita said, hey, wait a second. My dear sir, you did not have the whole story. Why did you skip it? The first canto, you told in the first canto that how Vidurji came back from Yatra. You have spoken about everything, Sukadeva Goswami, Sukadeva Goswami, but you haven't told me about, about Parishit, about Vidurya. Like this, those conversations between Sukadeva and Swami Adeshi also. This is my favorite thing from Mahabharata. 18th day has ended. Duryodhana, this is the 19th day now. Duryodhana is lying on the ground, beaten down by Bhima. And is about to die. Pandavas and Krishna standing there, and he called for Krishna. And Duryodhana blamed everything that happened in the war to Krishna. He said, Krishna, you are responsible for everything that has happened. He spoke many things, I don't want to go into details of it, considering the time. He said, you are responsible. You are the biggest cheat and the rogue. You destroyed our family. Look what has happened because of your involvement. And do you remember? Duryodhana went to Krishna in Dwarka, and Arjuna also reached. And Krishna said, well, I have two options for you. Take me empty-handed, or you take my army. So Krishna has already said, I'm not going to take part in the war. Yet Duryodhana somehow is able to pin the blame on Krishna. After he was done exhausting whatever he had to say, Krishna said one thing. Duryodhana, there is only one person responsible for this war. And that's you. And then he said, why? And he said, because you never listened to your seniors. You never listened to your seniors. In fact, I also came to Hastinapur, but you never listened. So there's something called as pretending to listen. I always say, I often deal with corporate audience. So I always tell them, you are modern day yogis. I'll tell you one example. I was doing a roaring kirtan after my program, and I saw one manager working in PCS. He was sitting right opposite to me, and he was switched off. There's a loud kirtan going on. Devotees are dancing, there's a vemper, kartal, harmonium, madanga, and this fellow was sleeping. I couldn't believe it. My whole attention was on this character. How can you sleep when you're such a roaring kirtan? The program ended. I went straight to him. I said, sir, what happened? He said, sir, your kirtan was so melodious, I fell asleep. How is it possible for you? You did a kirtan. So, if you look at your distance, he was looking like he was so attentively absorbed. That's called pretending to listen. But he was internally switched off. So, attentive. Therefore, attentive word has been mentioned, not listening only. Listening has been categorized along with attentive, which means you're paying attention. Those listening skills will be discussed tomorrow, so you'll get to know more about it. And, like Krishna heard to Arjuna, the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna just spoke. So there's a quality mention of empathy tied up to this, attentive listening. And all of the scriptures are like that. Sutta Goswami, Shaunaka Rishi, Parishit Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami, etc. The fifth universal principle is positive sense of belonging. His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaj said, we are making X number of devotees, but we are losing X plus delta X devotees. Why? Because of one thing. Because they don't feel cared or loved. In other words, when individual comes here, according to some of them, they said, this individual does not feel as if this is my family. So people have given up, their families, their cultural background and whatnot. They've come over here. They should feel ideally, this is my community, is my family. My family is my community. It has to be vice versa. So my community is my family is my community. That's what positive sense of belonging needs to be. And that requires a skill of or value of gratitude and generosity. Gratitude, grateful for what we have received, and generosity, not shying away from giving. Again, the triangle of life. Self-development, loving relationships, and social contribution. And the sixth principle is spirited leadership. PEP. Protective, encouraging, and another P is protective, empowering, and proactive leadership. Protective, taking care, everyone on me is taking care. Empowering, creating facilities and opportunities for Vaishnavas to grow. And proactive, taking steps so that everyone feels they're cared for. Can you think of any example of either preventive, protective, or proactive leadership? Any example from, yes, Mother? Bhakti Maharaj. Perfect example, yeah. He in fact wrote so many books on leadership. Yeah, true, wonderful. Any historical example?
Lord Chaitanya empowering Rupa Goswami, Sanatana.
Yeah, Lord Chaitanya empowering, fantastic, of empowerment. Yes, and Srila Prabhupada, empowering. You're there the 2 months, 2 weeks or 2 months in the movement, go, speak. What should I speak? Whatever you heard. That's empowerment. Oh, wow. Okay, anything from the history, from the historical, from the pages of history? Parishit Maharaj, proactive. He went out to take a tour of the kingdom to see how is my kingdom doing. He took a responsibility upon himself. Let me go and walk around all the towns and villages to see how my people are doing. In fact, you go back to Ramayana, Lord Ram, what would he do? This is post, after the Lanka war has ended, when Lord Ram was ruling. He would send spies around the town just to go and see how people are doing. So this is something where you care for. Are people happy? Because at times people may feel shy or maybe a little afraid to come and open up. Therefore, they will create systems where the leader will get to know how the devotees or the people under my rule, or what do you say, protection are doing and feeling. That's the whole idea of the spiritual leadership. Responsibility, as the leader does, so everyone follows. Yad yad ashrati shreshtas, tat tat eva tarojana. Why did Krishna say this to Arjuna? Arjuna said, I want to go to the forest. Krishna said, Arjuna, if you go to the forest, you're the leader. What example would you set? And then Krishna said, Arjuna, although I have no work to do, when I appear, even I follow. Why? If I don't follow, then everyone's life will be destroyed because they'll have a bad example to follow. So leadership is a very dicey situation, not an easy situation to be in. It's a thankless job precisely, but it involves high responsibility, because everything you do, everything you speak, it creates a kind of a benchmark. And everyone will take cue from that and say, well, Baba did do like this or did like this, we can also follow. So therefore again there's a lot of emphasis on leadership training for that reason. So these are the 6 principles and 6 values. Let's do a quick exercise. Or maybe we should have open for question answer. Maybe 1 or 2 exercises, then I'll open for question answer. Just to give you some perspective to it. I just want all of you to just read out for a few seconds and pick out which one you think is the most important principle and the most important value for you. Is that okay? There are 6. What do you think is the most important principle for you as of now? And the value. Please think about it.
You mean the one we should work on? The one that we feel is the best.
The best, the most important, which I believe probably you would also like to emphasize on. So which principle do you think is the most important? And also the value. One principle and one value. Okay, got it? Okay, let's hear. Prabhu, you understand? One principle, one value.
Loving relationship.
So Prabhu says loving relationship is the most important principle, and the value, corresponding value, affection, love. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, mother.
Vaishnav Seva.
Vaishnav Seva.
Excellence.
And
expertise.
Expertise. For Mother, Vaishnav Seva is the most important principle here. What about others? There's nothing right and wrong, whatever you think which resonates with you at this point in time. We just take quick inputs. Yes, Mother? Attentive listening and empathy, corresponding value. Should we quickly start from the row? All of you will shy here. Mother, we'll start with you. Quickly. What's the most important principle? Spiritual leadership. Other corresponding value. Yes, Mother.
Okay, I think
Srila Prabhupada teachings, got it. Mother, for you? Vaishnav Seva. Vaishnav Seva. Srila Prabhupada teachings. Mother? Spiritual leadership. Mother's down on the floor. Hare Krishna. Sorry if I'm disturbing the management. Yeah. Sorry. You could be with you, the management. Who disturb you? No, that's not okay. Continue with your service. Mother over there. You already answered, I believe, right? Yourself? Srila Prabhupada teachings. Mother answered who has not said yes.
Prabhupada teachings.
Prabhupada teachings. Samuel?
Can't decide.
The can't decide. Okay, pass it out. Prabhu for you. Srila Prabhupada teachings. Mother for you. Loving relationships. Mother yourself. Srila Prabhupada teachings. Loving relationships.
Prabhupada teachings.
Prabhupada teachings.
Also, Bhagavad Gita.
Prabhupada teachings.
Loving relationships.
Loving relationships. Mother to back. Vaishnav Seva. We have 3 devotees here.
Vaishnav
Seva
and gratitude and generosity.
and gratitude and generosity.
Attentive listening.
Attentive listening.
Attentive listening.
Okay. So if you see, we have this small group over here, maybe about 25 of us. Even in this group, there is diversity.
That's good.
So that's always going to be the case. So therefore, leadership have to decide. Nonetheless, I still give you some framework how we can all practice. Srila Prabhupada teachings and examples, we have got instituted courses that should be encouraged by leader for their community, that everyone should go through this Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav courses like that. Education is very important, that helps build us Sambandha Gyan. Then everything else happens. Vaishnava Seva, we need skills. So there's skill-based courses. Same for this, same for loving relationship. We'll be speaking about tomorrow about how to practice some of this care. But then attentive listening, this is also part of skill. We can get some training on this, some tools for that. Positive sense of belonging, gratitude and generosity, of course we can have some systems and structure around it. Let's say a system of feedback, a feedback box, with whoever, any member from the community wants to give any feedback, so they have that, forum where they can express themselves. And they are heard and they are responded to, maybe in an anonymous way. And spiritual leadership, ongoing training for the leadership and taking responsibility. So, okay, great. So just to help you memorize the 6 principles, there is what we call as mudra, right? Namada Guru? We call some actions. So I'll just do those actions so that we at least remember the 6 principles. So that we have a little bit of remembrance of it. So I'll do an action. Please repeat after me that action. So that I'll tell you with which it matches to. Or maybe let me do an action. Let's see if you guess it. What it matches to. So that goes to Srila Prabhupada's teachings and example. So everyone, so you memorize those kind of mudra. This is Srila Prabhupada's teaching and example. Okay, Vaishnava. So please follow that mudra. Get into some physical movement. You were sitting on for a while. Loving relationship. Oh, sorry, I only give the answer. Sorry. I'll come back to it later. I got distracted. So please do that mudra. So we were practicing last night with Damodar. I said, no. Do it like this. Attentive. It has to be attentive, not like this. I said, okay. I'll make up my own attentive, he said. Okay. Yeah, I should randomly do that. It's becoming very easy to guess. I'm going serially. You're able to figure it out. Yeah, so positive sense of belonging. Alright.
Loving relationship.
Loving relationship. Yes, spiritual leadership. Alright, so why don't we all get up at your place for a second? Let's do this mudra. So during lunch break, you can practice a little bit. So you have some mudras, you got it. So please say loudly. Srila Prabhupada teaching and example. Vaishnava Seva. Some of you are not expanding your hands wide enough. Why be miserly? Grab it as much. Loving relationships. Yeah, tilt. Tilt. Positive sense of belonging. Now stretch out. Spiritual leadership. Got to stretch out. So these are the 6 principles like that. And then, alright, take a seat. We thought of having some exercise, but because it's hitting 12:30 now, I don't have the exercise for values. Maybe time permits tomorrow. I'll quickly start with that. A quick group work for values, some mimic, some short story. I'll pass it on for tomorrow. Any quick questions and comments on this topic of principles and values? More or less, we kind of gave you some systems and structure also, how we can follow these principles through training, etc. Any comments? Yes, Prabhu.
I have a question. Looking at principle 6, spiritual leadership and responsibility, is there an example? The example for this spiritual leadership and taking the responsibility that Prabhupada made the exception that mushrooms can be eaten in China? Is that an example of this, or is that something else? Yes, he takes care of the devotees which are China, which are...
Well, this what becomes what you're using, what you're referring to is not a detail.
Yeah.
We're talking principles here. Details can always vary according to time, place, and circumstances.
Yeah.
There is a statement of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati when the Gaudiyama temple had to be built at one place. He said, these workers will not work if you don't feed them what they want. At one point in time, his disciples were rolling berries for the workers. Those are details cannot be just taken from one place and applied.
Yeah.
So this is a contextual. What is the spiritual leadership over here? Yes, Prabhupada is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Till the last day, Prabhupada was, giving commentary. That's spiritual leadership. That's responsible conduct. Like that. Okay. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Yes.
Okay, I like the principle of attentive listening, especially because I have some hard time hearing. I got a wonderful hearing aid, but the speaker, they should be more conscious of the audience. Can the audience hear? Can they understand? Is it going too fast? Or do they have a crazy accent? Sometimes it happens. So, it's like the speaker, they have to be concerned, If people speak too can understand, otherwise it's useless.
Mother, I heard you attentively. I heard you attentively. Anything else from anyone? Yes.
I think so. Prabhupada's teachings, he includes all these principles because actually Prabhupada who gave us this movement, and that's where we learn all these principles from. So for me, that's why it like really looks like.
Absolutely. But just to have that kind of a burst, I feel it's important to have this kind of a 6 categories, so we get the idea of what we should be doing. Other scriptures are too vast, but eventually everything is a subset of Guru Sadhu Shastra. Correct. It's not independent of that. All right. So I pause here.